So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a very, very special edition of Business as Usual. And this is a joint session with what we call TRETC, and it stands for Three Rivers Educational Technology Conference. And we are going to be having amazing conversations with people who are so busy. I am thrilled that they have taken the time to be with us today. And I will introduce them in a moment. But if you're accustomed to participating in our Business as Usual series, you might not have heard of TRETC. And I mentioned that it's the Three Rivers Educational Technology Conference. And let me tell you a little bit about this event. It's an annual professional development program that the Tech Council has facilitated for a long time. And we are aiming at helping teachers and educators share the best practices in integrating educational technology into the classroom. So we have many partners and many friends over the years, and we have learned a lot in terms of what kinds of things people really care about and are compelled to think about as we look at what education means as we move beyond 2021. So today we're actually joined by educators and administrators from nearby Pittsburgh, Shanksville, Uniontown, and Warren County, but as far away as Virginia and West Virginia. They represent K through 12 organizations, which include after-school program colleges, obviously schools, universities, and technical schools. So we try to have a nice grasp of every dimension of education. The agenda and the curriculum for TRETC is actually developed by educators for educators. And I would like to especially thank the members of the planning committee who dedicate their time, their energy, their vision in making this conference just a tremendous success. So I cannot thank them enough. So on the other hand, if you're participating in TRETC today, it's likely that you have not ever heard of Business as Usual. So we hope that you continue, and we hope that you find this interesting. So a bit of the background. The Tech Council, our organization that I'm the president and CEO of, we actually are a regional trade association that represents approximately 1,000 technology companies, life science companies, and advanced manufacturing firms that are located all across southwestern Pennsylvania. They have some presence here. So at the outset of the pandemic, we launched Business as Usual as a way just to keep the region connected. Just connected. What was happening? We had a pandemic, people were working from home, things were changing each and every day. So since then, we've hosted almost 200 daily Zooms, and we do it every day at 12 noon, and usually it's about 30 minutes. Today, it's going to be a little bit longer because of the nature of the program and because of the nature of the guests that we're very, very honored to have. So we've attracted over 5,000 participants across the community. Sometimes they're from outside the region. And just as a flavor for the programming, and we also have it archived, so you can look at all of our recordings. You can go to pghtech.org. We'll put it in the chat, and you can see exactly the kinds of people that we've interviewed. And if you want to sit down, have your lunch at any other day, and just join in to understand the kinds of conversations that we're having. So tomorrow we're going to be, just as a little bit of a flavor, tomorrow we're going to be hosting Ajit Pai. He's been the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and to be followed up on Wednesday by Jerry Vardsell. He's the new leader of an organization called LifeX. It's a life sciences incubator for startup companies that was founded by the University of Pittsburgh. And if you know a little bit about our community, you do know that life sciences is actually a very important part of the future in terms of building technology and innovation. So we are very committed to building bridges between our region's community of educators and the entrepreneurs and STEM professionals who are powering our region's technology economy. Marie Poloni, and she leads all of our efforts to attract talent to the region and develop the pipeline of talent for future, is an educator herself, and she can serve as an excellent resource for your organization. We will put her info in here because that's her role. Her role is to bridge, to provide those bridges. And I know that's a Pittsburgh analogy that we always use, but we really mean that in a very material way. This year alone, through our STEM summits and speakers of the STEM program, she's actually helped connect with, 2,000 educators. I think that's correct. and field trips that have been amazing, virtual field trips that have blown my mind in terms of we've had students that have been able to actually see surgeries being performed. They got inside views early on to people who were working on solving vaccine experiments, doing some of the initial vaccine experiments and research over at the University of Pitt, to work with virtual reality labs. You name it, we're trying to make those kinds of connections so people can see the possibilities for the future. So get to know Marie. We'll put her name in the chat. If you don't know her, you really need to know her because she's part of the secret sauce in terms of the work that we're doing. So now we have an incredible panel of K through 12 administrators who are going to discuss a timely topic about equity in education during this age of COVID and during this age of Black Lives Matter. And I would like to, before we start the discussion, I really want to give a shout out to the sponsors of today's sessions, and they've been involved with us in all of TRETC. And there are a lot of them. So bear with me, but get to know them because they are an essential part of the work that we all do. So Commonwealth Charter Academy, CDW, Lucas Systems, Niche, eHall Pass, Edulastic, Overdrive Education, Pitt College and High School, FEV Tutor, Get More Math, and the Living Donation, 40 by 80, which is the longitude and latitude of Pittsburgh, and it's a wholly owned subsidiary of the Tech Council, Huntington Bank, PA Cyber, and Shell Games. So there you have it. And I'm going to tell you a few things. We've muted your microphones. We do that on purpose so that we hopefully can give some honor to the people who are going to speak in a moment. And I know I have dogs, so if they bark, I will do what I can to make sure that I'm shutting that down. And then we also have a chat, and we have a chat so that you can ask questions, okay? And we'll do what we can to try to make sure that we can afford everyone the opportunity for questions. So today's discussion could not be, more better timed, right? In terms of the lessons of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So we're going to be exploring educational equity and COVID with 6 administrators who are leading this cause each and every day in their respective districts. So with that, I would like to welcome the superintendents. I'm just going to say their names, and then we're going to, after I finish, we're going to jump in to the conversation. So here we have James Harris from the Woodland High School, the Woodland Hills School District. We have Sue Moyer from the Duquesne School District. We have Dr. Todd Keruskin from the Elizabeth Forward School District, Dr. Janet Sardon from the Yough School District, Dr. Linda Iverson from the Wilkinsburg School District, and Dr. Anthony Hamlet, who has been with us before on our show, from the Pittsburgh Public Schools. So in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And today, we're here to talk about something that truly matters, the education of all of our children and the next generation. So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. And I'm going to jump in. You're going to hear less of me now, okay? I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, in the face of the challenges that your district has faced during the pandemic, what has your district done well to maintain the quality of education for all? I know this is big, for all of your students. And what are you most proud of? And I'm going to ask each and every one of you. And it looks like perhaps one of our panelists is not here. So I'm going to make sure that we afford the opportunity. So I'm going to start with Dr. Hamlet. Dr. Hamlet, first of all, thank you so much for being with us again. And what do you think in terms of face of the challenges that your district has experienced during the pandemic? What are you proud of?
Well, thank you for having me once again, and hello everyone. Happy MLK Day. So number one, for me, I have to acknowledge, based on what I've seen thus far and what I've experienced thus far, I have to acknowledge, number one, the personnel the teachers, the principals, the central office staff, the social workers, the guidance counselors, the food service workers, the custodians. I can go on and on, but the personnel, but also our students, their families, the community, and how we've come together to make sure that this pandemic does not stop the learning for our students. By and large, we know that being in person is the best for our students. However, based on our circumstance, providing online and being able to go to a one-to-one district has been huge and a game changer for Pittsburgh Public Schools. And in the midst of this, continue to feed families and feed students as well. So we're really proud of our accomplishments thus far, but understanding that we have a long way to go, and we're staying focused and committed to doing the things we need to do to support our children and our communities and families as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's go to Sue Morton. Thank you for being with us. And Sue is from Duquesne School District.
We are. So thanks for having us. Much like Dr. Hamlet had just said, you can't be more proud of the staff, the committed staff, the custodians, the teachers, your paraprofessionals, your PCAs, they all stepped in. We're doing home visits to try to help parents and students to, navigate this time of uncertainty. We went to, we were lucky enough, we were already a one.
Are you in? No, I'm back in. I can't hear a thing.
Okay.
Sorry, that's Linda. I think that's Linda, right?
I don't know, but let's continue to go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sue. Continue.
That's okay. I think one of the things that we're most proud of is that continuation of learning that occurred. We were already a one-to-one district, so it was a pretty seamless transition from in-person instruction to that platform of online learning. I think our biggest challenge was the food insecurity. So I think that was one of our biggest things, and we were able to overcome that with doing bus stop deliveries. And that was in partnership with Eaton Park, 412 Food Rescue, the United Way, and Allies for Children. They really kind of helped secure that, and that really transformed the district. And now it's really been beneficial because the only grocery store in Duquesne City has closed its doors. So now we face a bigger issue now as a community with the doors closing. So this food service and our partnership with those organizations have really been beneficial.
What does it mean one-to-one? You mentioned that.
So every student has an iPad or a Chromebook.
Okay, excellent. And you were able to get people what they needed. You were able to get the students, because I know Dr. Hamlet has been working on that as well.
Yeah.
So Todd, thank you so much. You as well are a good friend to our tech community, and thrilled that you're joining us from Elizabeth Forward. What about you?
Well, thank you for having us. And I'm really proud of our staff, just like the other superintendents talked about, staff and students and parents and our entire community working together, and we're in this together. And that's kind of what we've been saying since March 13th when this happened. Can't believe it's almost been a year. Elizabeth Forward's a little unique because we've had one-to-one. We've been one-to-one, every student having an iPad K-12 for almost 9 years now. Our former technology director, Mary Beth Wiseman, myself, and Dr. Rocco, former superintendent, worked pretty hard to put that in place 9 years ago, almost 10 years now. And we've done a lot with learning management systems and making sure that we have a robust learning management system so kids can actually get on and access all the information from textbooks to our online resources, creating a digital ecosystem. So we've worked really, really hard. And when March 13th hit with COVID, we only missed one day missed one day of school that following week. And then we actually met 180 days requirement last year with remote learning, because we had the one-to-one, we had our professional development, and really our work has been scaling, creating this digital ecosystem and scaling it in every classroom with every teacher. So, before COVID, we were doing a lot of this work beforehand, which helped us a lot when COVID-19 and we had to close our doors on March 13th. So, and then this year we've only really been 9 days, in remote learning. We've had in-person learning since August. So we've been working really hard and just proud of our students, our staff, our community, trying to give the best possible education during this global pandemic.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us. And so I think Dr. Linda Iverson from the Wilkinsburg School District is here. I saw her and I want to see if she's joined us again. Okay.
She's having some audio issues, so we're trying to get those fixed so you can.
Okay, that's great. So Dr. Janet Sardon from the Yough School District. What has your district done well? What are you most proud of?
So I will reiterate what some of the other superintendents have already said. I want to say, especially our teachers, our administration, our families, and our parents that have stepped up to the plate during a very difficult time, during transitions where you're open, you're closed, you're open, you're closed. And I think as a district, what I'm most proud of is our collaborative and teamwork effort to put together a program that allows for equity for kids across grade levels and buildings and communities. You know, we are able to offer a platform where kids are in the classroom, they can be virtual live where they're still in the classroom but from home, or for those that need virtual recorded, they're all receiving the same curriculum from the same teachers. And as we have to transition because the pandemic is so unpredictable, our kids are able to transition from program to program, whether it's something the state has us closing or we as a district have to close due to COVID transmission cases. I think our ability to develop a structure of a program that allows for equity for children across regions, across our schools has been really important. And that really has been done in conjunction with everyone in the district. And in a time of need, our staff, our community, our families, our parents, our students have stepped up to the plate to make that happen. And we're so proud of that here at Yough.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sardon. And Taylor, I'm assuming that we still have some technical issues with Dr. Iverson from Wilkinsburg.
I think
No,
we
I'm
got her
in.
now.
Oh, hi. Okay,
Hi.
how are you? Thank you so much.
Good, I
I'm so
am
glad
in.
that you're here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for this. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for your work. So our question is, I'm going to rephrase it,
Yes.
is, what have you done well? Let's just talk about what you are most proud of.
Yes. And I have,
Last year.
but thank you for this opportunity. So yes, so much has happened in Wilkinsburg that I am very proud of. And as we are beginning to think and plan for next school year, that I look as a superintendent, I'm hoping to pivot and to sustain some of the things we're doing now. I mean, where we are right now is, a small, poor urban district right outside of Pittsburgh. 99% African-American, 100% free and reduced lunch. And most of my parents living at or below the poverty level. We are very proud that we have implemented a whole online platform that we did not have before, and one where our children have been able to access learning during this COVID experience. We have found that, we all know that nothing replaces traditional in-person learning, but with our implementation of this online platform, our families who were hesitant have really embraced it. Our teachers have really embraced it, and we are meeting with some success as we're watching attendance data. Our attendance data around our students logging in for that synchronous live learning is between 80 to 100%. And we watch that weekly. And our parents who are engaged, and we've seen a different level of engagement by our parents. Mm-hmm. And parents who are working with students at home are even giving feedback unsolicited because they're in earshot of the live learning that students are getting from their teachers. The feedback from our parents is that they have a greater appreciation for what we do. Some have actually said that. Yes. They're learning a lot from watching the teachers working with the students. They're amazed at how our staff has been able to embrace all of the technology, all the hand raising, how to download assignments, how to teach kids to do that, as well as they've picked up how to manage even some of the discipline to keep kids engaged that they're using in their homes. So we're very proud of that. And as I said, we're looking now, because it's working so well, we know we'll never be the same. We want to capitalize on this experience. And we're looking to see how we can pivot to be able to provide a different pathway or more than one pathway to education for our parents and students when we go back, hopefully, in school in the fall, so that we sustain this online component.
So thank you so much, Dr. Iverson, for joining us. And now I see we have James Harris from the Woodland Hills School District. Thank you so much for joining us. As everyone can see, we have a rock star panel here, people who are doing just incredible work over this last year. So what are you most proud of? What?
The consistency and how we've been able to sustain the online platform. We ended the last school year online, and we started up again with a more robust program going virtual. And we did have about a small portion of our underserved special ed students back in person. And then we were allowing the teachers to teach from the buildings, but with high COVID cases, they're now all teaching 100% from home. We never wanted to have, the start and stop. So in order to be consistent, we just stayed online. We're attempting to bring students back, and we do surveys and studies and talk to teachers and talk to families. It looks like right now, though, they're really comfortable staying virtual. We would like to bring them back, maybe by March, at least to get some in-person, in-class experiences. But most proud of just being able to transition from a true brick and mortar school to a virtual school. And like Superintendent Iverson said, this is really going to change how we instruct in the future, where we do more of a hybrid platform because we were forced to, move ahead 3 to 5 years before we were even going to even consider this, but we always talked about it. Now it's a crash course in how to do it. And our teachers are comfortable, because in the beginning they were not comfortable. Now that they are. Some have been doing some really innovative things virtually. Some teachers who may have struggled with classroom management don't have that problem anymore. Some students who had trouble with being in the classroom with other kids disrupting them are really doing well now. And it's been an interesting process. So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, the world has all been talking about all the rapid transformation in businesses. Things have occurred that were on people's business plan for 5 years, occurred in 2 months. And that's what all of you have faced as well. So I'm thrilled to be able to shine the light on education, because you all have done that. You've experienced the same things with less of the resources than many of the businesses have. So let's flip it now. Let's talk about, how you've addressed the issues of educational equity, and inclusion, and especially you've talked about the use of tech, but there are challenges that remain. There really are. And those are the things that I'd like us to be able to talk about here. And what I'd like to do is jump to Dr. Sardon from the Yough School District, and let everyone know where the Yough School District is. I think people need to understand just geographically.
Sure. So Yough School District is located in Westmoreland County. We are a fairly expansive district, and we have a few small towns, and then we do have a lot of rural areas. So when you start to talk about educational equity, one of the things we struggled with, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, is how are we going to make sure that in our most rural areas that students have access to internet services. And even to today, that it is still a struggle to make sure that all of our students have access to that technology, have the ability to be online. As a district, we were able to procure some MiFi boxes that allow, some reception within some homes, but even those don't help our most remote areas. And they struggle to get those internet connections. So even with some of the supports, we still struggle to get those connections out to our most rural areas of the building. I can tell you that we were able, like the other districts on here today, to provide Chromebooks for families. But if you don't have internet connection, Chromebook for families is really challenging. We've done some other things to try to assist by putting, Wi-Fi connections within our school parking lots. But again, a lot of times that's not convenient or conducive for families to do that. So I think our biggest issue of inequity here in a more rural school district is how do you make sure that kids are on an equal playing field with technology, not just with equipment, but also with that connection that they need to be successful. I would say, if you were to guess, we probably have been successful at about an 85%, but there's still 15% of the kids out there that struggle every day to be able to get online and to have affordable, internet connections within our region and within our area.
And what about in Wilkinsburg, Dr.
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes, and she echoed some of the same concerns we had. I will have to preface first to let you know that, Wilkinsburg School District, our board has been very committed to our students having access to some form of technology. So prior to my even coming to the district as superintendent, and since then, every child in Wilkinsburg does have an iPad they use within the classroom on a daily basis to access an online application to help diversify what they need in terms of instruction and their learning. So that was in place when COVID hit, that we were able to capitalize on using those iPads to begin some form of instruction that was level playing field across our special education students as well, where we were able to download some applications and some assignments for students to do while we began to plan for the move and moving to our Chromebooks. Chromebooks were always in our vision, and we have begun to purchase that. We did get some state funds and continuity of education funds and ESSER funds, where we were able to buy more Chromebooks for our teachers as well, and some hotspots. We did put out a survey to our faculty and to our families to find out how many had technology in the home, because having technology and no broadband did not work. And so we were able to get data to help us decide on who had it, who did not, and we were able to distribute then iPads to parents at home for students to be able to access some of the online learning for them to do those assignments. So the funds that we received were able to help us do that, but we did have some issues around that broadband, and so the hotspots came in handy. And if we do occasionally have a parent who will email and say my kid could not get on, and so those are case by case basis that we deal with on a regular as they come, but they have not been that many. Most of our students are able to access online the learning, and they're able to do the synchronous live instruction as it is delivered. But it's an ongoing challenge and something we watch every day.
And then what about food insecurity?
Well, we did not provide, you said food?
Mm-hmm.
So no, we did not provide food to our students. We did not do the grab and, well, we did prior to beginning of the school year. We did provide lunch over the summer and breakfast, grab bags over the summer when COVID first hit pre-March, around March. But when we opened the school year, we did not continue to do that. Some of our students were able to go to pods within the community that had opened up their doors for parents to drop their children off so they could go to work, and they received meals there. So a lot of our parents and students took advantage of sites around the city of Wilkinsburg, and they would access their learning there, be there all day, and there is where they would also get grab and go breakfast and lunch meals. So that's how we were able to handle that.
Okay, thank you. And what about at Elizabeth Forward? Todd, Superintendent Keruskin, what are you seeing? What are some of the challenges that you're still facing?
At the beginning, we had Wi-Fi issues. We pushed out hotspots to parents who were struggling. Just like Dr. Sardon said, though, some of the rural areas of Elizabeth Forward were about 43 square miles. But even if we pushed out hotspots to certain parents in some of the rural areas, there was no cell reception, so the Wi-Fi, the hotspots would not work. So we've dealt with that. Again, with our district having iPads for 8 or 9 years, 10 years now, and all the professional development, it's just hard for school districts to flip that switch of going 100% remote and pushing out technology to every student, and then providing that professional development. When we look at equity, we want to make sure that every kid is getting the same quality of education. So making sure that every teacher has that professional development to be able to meet the needs of all kids using our learning management system. So making sure they're engaging lessons, making sure that we're continuing to be in the same ballpark of curriculum wise of our pacing guides that we would be if we weren't in a global pandemic. We're about a unit or so behind even at the elementary level compared to what it was in the past. So we're looking at all that, but one of our goals is really scaling the work in every classroom and making sure that every teacher has all the tools that they need to be successful, so we can provide that equity to every single kid, so every kid is getting quality education.
Thank you. So I want to shift a little bit to Dr. Hamlet in terms of what do you think are some of the permanent changes? We've talked about this massive transformation that's occurred in a short period of time. I know that the Pittsburgh City Schools worked really hard to get the technology in everyone's hands. What are some of the permanent changes that you suspect right now will be part of education, particularly K through 12?
Yes. So I think moving forward, we're definitely in this space. Again, going to a one-to-one district like other districts have gone, provided students with also access to Wi-Fi was important as well. I think that's going to be a game changer in itself. But more importantly, how we use this technology moving forward after the pandemic is going to be huge as well. And so we're in this space, we're in constant learning mode of where we are and what we need to do to provide the most robust educational experience for our students that we can. And so we're in that space. But I also want to put something here as well, is that we had to actually provide our faculty and staff with computers as well. And so I think that goes missed sometimes, that our faculty and staff had to be loaded with the laptops and the support they needed to really make sure that our students were getting the best educational experience they can. So an investment in professional development we had to do over time as well, but also moving forward, having the ability to have our students who normally would be in this digital divide have computers, have access, and have being able to constantly be taught or getting online and learning and dialoguing with their teachers and their peers is going to be a game changer. I think that's the biggest thing I see right now for our students and in our districts across the United States at this point.
And Superintendent Moyer over in Duquesne, I mean, you're facing some significant challenges in your own community. So what do you think some of the changes are? What are the things that you think positive and perhaps we should be alarmed about?
When Dr. Hamlet talked about the digital divide, I really couldn't agree more. We're finally, because we were able to provide the one-on-one, we're kind of ending that divide where, some kids are going home and able to do their homework and some kids were not. We've been able to end that. And I think as we move forward and think about the future, this is a way to, we now have put in place some different learning management systems. And I know I was part of a group with Dr. Keruskin from Elizabeth Forward, where we went through and were able to write a grant and get a learning management platform to be able to, that will allow us the ability to really differentiate for kids. And I think that's one of the big takeaways as we move forward. I don't necessarily see it as something we need to, that is, scary or not ability. I actually think it's a positive as we move forward, that in light of the pandemic and, some learning loss, and I'm actually, pretty proud to say that, we just did just had our numbers in for the number of special education students that we would owe compensatory ed for the learning loss, and only 13% of those kids are owed. That's pretty remarkable in a school district where kids were already behind. That we've been able to close that gap, and we have been closing that gap. With a more robust curriculum, and we were able to, with the pandemic, to put all of the same resources that we were using in the regular, brick and mortar school, they're now all online. So that learning loss never really occurred. I think it was a platform switch, and I think it goes back to, Todd had alluded to before about, giving the teachers the professional development, who then we're offering tailored support to individual students and their families on how to use the resources from home. There's still, that group of individuals, and sometimes I'm one of them, from time to time, depending on what I'm reading, is so used to having, as I have paper notes in front of me, that handheld copy of a book, even just as a book, as a textbook, and that's a hard, transition. And we work through those, but it's really been, I think, a positive as we think about the future and what really we can do and our abilities, and that we've been set our teachers up for success, and how much further we can kind of push the envelope.
Thank you. So there's some questions out here. I mean, there's a lot of questions out here, which makes me both very happy, because I believe that people are passionate about this. And of course, I want to make sure that we figure out ways that there are pathways for all of us to be helpful to each and every one of you in the roles that you have. But I'm going to ask Jonathan Keruskin. I had so many introductions in the beginning and I failed to introduce him. And he oversees marketing and all things storytelling for the Tech Council. So Jonathan, can you just grab a couple of the questions and anyone can answer them? Because I think there's some great ones in here and we'll save them. Superintendents will save those questions for you as well so that we can follow up. But Jonathan, would you grab one of the questions? And I want to remind everyone that this is an advertisement-free zone. I know that there are people who are trying to sell, and that's not what this is about. And I meant to say that at the beginning.
Absolutely. So let's start with I think this is a really good question. I think that will cover everybody here. Do you feel that high school seniors are learning at a pace that's prepared them for college next fall? Have any of you proctored SAT or ACT exams specifically for students in your district?
Anyone want to take that?
I would say based on analysis that we did with our first quarter grades, and subsequently we'll do the same with our second quarter grades to gauge where our students are. We know that more students are struggling. More students are receiving D's, F's, and E's than they did in previous years. So that's an indicator. But again, that's only one data point that we look at. We have the upcoming possible PSAT, which is going to be a struggle for us to get done, especially with our buildings being all remote. And what does that mean for our faculty and staff? But we're working that out. And the school day SAT is forthcoming as well, where we give the SAT free for all of our 11th graders. So we have an indicator of where our students are once we get those results back based on how many students participate.
So, and then there was one answer that I love that Todd has shared. He shared with everyone just all of his staff development. So he's sharing that with everyone in a couple of different texts. So I think you can answer that question might be answered, but thank you. Jonathan, what else do we have out there?
Yeah, let's go to Ingrid Cook's question here. So she asks here, she says, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the city's median household income equality score worsened, with a report showing that household incomes among Black residents decreased from 26,000 and change in 2016 to 22,000 in 2017, while increased for whites from 54,000 and change to 55,000. Given this sad reality here in Pittsburgh, what are we doing to identify at-risk children who are not participating in a pod with hot meals, those who may be home alone without internet services or the support they need to succeed? What can Pittsburgh's tech community do to support children who fall into this category?
Who wants to take that? It's a long one, or else I'll just call on someone. James, anything that you want to add to that?
The tech community, I don't know what the tech community can do. I can tell you what the schools have been doing. We've been utilizing our other employees outside of teachers to assist going to homes, doing small group mental health providers. We've been staying connected with our families to make sure that we're still in touch with them. So on the tech side, I'm not sure, but we're using the tech outside of the classroom to make sure that students are engaged. And what we are finding is that some students may have been held back by classroom instruction. They want to move ahead faster. They're able to do that through online learning. But the social workers, the reading specialists, the math interventionists, all those folks, counselors, have been steadily in contact with the students and the families. What we've been doing along this basis was teaching the parents how to teach the kids and inviting the parents to sit in on lessons a lot of times, not to interrupt sometimes, but actually teach them techniques on how to engage their child. Because a lot of times the families haven't seen their children in this place before. And it's new to them. I remember that back in March when we first shut down, a mother got on, it was a mental health meeting I was on, to teaching parents how to deal with that. And she was trying not to give her child the medication to keep him calm throughout the day. And the young man, he's probably about 8 years old, was doing cartwheels behind her on the Zoom meeting. I mean, he was doing backflips, cartwheels. And she finally said, he's now getting the full dose. Because, she realized what the teachers were going through in the classroom. She's like, oh my gosh, my son does not sit still. And she would give him breaks throughout the day. And that's just like recess and things like that. So I think that the tech side opened the door, the window into what a teacher's day is like and how their students and their children are interacting. But I mean,
Well, one of the ways, just to sort of clarify that, is that the tech community, when we say that, what we mean are all the businesses that are working in innovation and tech, and they're feeling they want to figure out ways to be helpful. And one of the ways that we worked early on, and I'll talk to Dr. Hamlet about this, is what we worked early on was we saw the digital divide right away. And the digital divide included people not having access to the internet, no less having access to tools. So we actually worked with Aurora and Google to start to create something with Neighborhood Allies called Beyond the Laptops. So Dr. Hamlet, we started that, and our focus, it wasn't necessarily only the city schools, but it became the big piece of it. And that's sort of, James, that's sort of where we were, that question tends to emanate from. We want to be helpful. We want to be helpful in a meaningful way.
Yeah, definitely want to give a shout out to our tech community. You guys, you did a yeoman's job of pulling it together, providing the Beyond the Laptops for us, which helped us get a large portion of our one-to-one devices for our students, and that we were able to make sure that all students, based on need, who needed a laptop to begin the school year, they had a laptop, but also they had access to the internet as well. We have partnerships with Comcast, T-Mobile, and Sprint that provide those hotspots and hardwired internet access in homes as well, but also partnership with the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority, Castor Benny and his staff actually provided all the computers and internet access for families and students that were in the Housing Authority buildings. So great partnerships around the city with our foundation communities as well, with our university partners, tremendous outreach and collaboration. So thank you.
So thank you. And to all of you though, and back to James's questioning on this, to all of you, is that the tech community would like to participate if there are ways in terms of mentorship and contributions as well. So it's both financial as well as time. And our job at the Tech Council is to make sure, and our wish is to make sure that we are connected, because none of you, during these incredible times, none of you can do this alone. And us wanting to have an impact and to touch that is real. People care about that. And I think that's why we have so many people that are interested in this conversation today, and hopefully in the conversations that continue. So Jonathan, are there a couple of more questions? I know there was conversation out there, some chatter about trust, about conversations around trust, and maybe you can craft a question from that.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions around to you. How do you build that trust for, allowing schools into people's homes when it comes to the at-home education and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to take that? Because now
I can speak to that just a little bit, because we do Google Meets where kids are online and we are in their homes, and we do our best safety wise, cameras off, microphone off when we're teaching lessons, and students aren't on, the entire time open to the public. I can tell you that we have built a great deal of trust with our families. It's important that they know what our expectations are, and we know what they expect in their homes. And, working and having conversations if and when there are issues with those families and working together. I think that's really been the biggest key is the development of that trust and making sure that the communication is out there open and honest. And I think if you do that, that helps. And then I also think, the platform you use, as long as you're making sure that you use the proper security and you make sure you're prepared for that, and the teachers that are teaching lessons are prepared for that, I think that allows for us to develop that trust of being in homes.
I'd like to speak to that as well. We have found in Wilkinsburg that the engagement of our families and the trust that between the families and our school district has really, really increased. I think our parents are feeling more comfortable with, like I said, the online platform. As Superintendent Harris mentioned, we have every teacher in our district is paired with a non-teacher, and I mean, say like a guidance counselor, our social worker, our school nurse. everyone, every staff person is all hands on deck. They're paired so that there is someone always available to connect with the child and or a parent who's having any type of difficulty. And so if a child is not logging on, that teacher has a partner right on the spot to be able to say, can you email that parent? Can you call that parent? I can't tell you how much our parents are appreciating that. And that's helped them feel comfortable around this online platform. So that's something we put in place. We communicate regularly with them. I do a lot of messages via the robocall system. They get text messages from me all the time just about any and everything. And I've gotten feedback around how they really do appreciate that. So much so that if, as we listen for concerns, we just have not heard them. I like to say sometimes the silence has been the greatest indicator of data to us that things are working well around that continuity of how we remain consistent in our approach, and so that their kids are consistently getting what they need, and so are parents. And our turnaround and responsive rate is beyond anything we could imagine during this very difficult time. So I think we've done a great job of that in Wilkinsburg, and that's something, again, we will continue to capitalize on. I think because many of our parents are engaging and loving this more. And I'll mention one other thing around our special education piece. There's always been a concern around just attendance at meetings. We're finding that our parents are appreciating that opportunity to have IEP meetings online, and the attendance even of these meetings has increased. So that engagement around that piece and around very intricate, delicate information, confidential information on the student, they're very comfortable with how we've set that up online so that they can be engaged, participate, and get the necessary paperwork that comes out of that meeting to sign. So that's an ongoing goal. We continue to look at that. We meet on it all the time. How can we even increase that? But it is very important. I think we've done a good job of that in Wilkinsburg.
Anyone else want to add to that? Okay. Jonathan, we have probably time for one more comment?
Yeah. How about in terms of professional development for teachers, given the new hybrid environment that we're in? How do teachers maintain their skills?
So
I would love to talk on that.
Right.
I'll wait to someone else.
Superintendent Keruskin already put a whole list in the chat in terms of what he does. So is there, make sure that you look at that and you can see the list of development. Anyone else want to take, stab at answering that?
Audrey, to add to this, our learning management system we use is Canvas, which CMU, Penn State, Harvard uses. Our students are using it, and a lot of other schools. I know Duquesne, Sue's shaking her head. Kindergarten all the way through 12th grade is using Canvas, our learning management system. But we're using, our students are utilizing this, but we're also building courses out for our staff to be able to take courses using our learning management system. So the staff is utilizing the same system our kids are learning from. They're learning professional development, and even one of the superintendents talked about almost like personalized learning. Kids can work at their own pace. It's the same thing for staff. Some staff, they struggle with some initial things with a digital ecosystem, and then others pick it up a lot faster. So you can use your learning management system for professional development for your staff, and they can work at their own pace and move ahead. The days are over of putting all your staff in an auditorium and giving them the same information. We have to personalize the learning for our staff too, because they all have strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I like to piggyback on that. We did something similar to that in Wilkinsburg. I do like the point about that self-paced, because this whole Google platform was new for us. We embraced it over the summer, and we partnered with the AIU in Allegheny County, and we were able to provide for our staff a cycle of learning around Google Classroom. They went through about 13 separate units from learning the basics to learning all of the technology, how to teach kids to raise their hand, all the technical pieces that teachers would need to know. And I will say we were able to do a lot of that. We found some programs online that our teachers were able to use to enhance those skills. So that professional development is key because we knew that we had to raise the rigor around that instruction. And we were also not only raising the instructional rigor, we were definitely sustaining that, but now you have this technology piece on top that they're delivering this instruction through that platform. And we did not want to sacrifice the learning of our students. So the platform over the summer was to engage in very heavy professional development. We have a half day through the year now. We have 6 days during the year, and all during this, every platform, every PD day, our teachers are actively getting now more training around the Google Classroom implementation through content like math and literacy. So it is an ongoing challenge, but I think that's something that never goes away, and something we will continue to look at in Wilkinsburg.
I think that on a smaller school districts, and I just wanted to respond real quickly, all of what Todd and Linda said are important. There's no more huge professional development, a lot of independent, but we have found as a district that some of our very best professional development comes from within, of those people that have made themselves experts in different technological sources or resources or programs, and they teach each other. And we have found that that has been some of our best professional development, and is not necessarily at a huge cost when districts struggle during this time of the pandemic. Money wise, that has proven to be very effective in helping us implement our technology program. And that is obviously kudos to our staff and administration.
So I know that we've exceeded our time, and I could spend a lot more time with each and every one of you. I just want to say to all of you, as well as the people who are listening, that we have a speakers bureau at the Tech Council. It's a STEM, we call it like the STEM Bureau, to bring people who are across the technology and innovation community, who have expertise or who have a passion around, engineering, computer science, security, et cetera. And our aim is to bring them into the classrooms as it makes sense with the curriculum design. So we have lots of people in these companies that want to share their expertise, and our role is to bridge that gap. So I say that to each and every one of you superintendents, that we're here for you. Really, we're here for you because we intentionally want to be able to do that, and we can do that easily in this world right now as well. But we know that it takes both sides to sort of create a nice bridge for those partnerships. So I want to say that. The other thing that I want to say that, our work today is TRETSI, Three Rivers Educational Technology Conference, and it is continuing education. And when we've had speakers, we even include speakers like the founder of Duolingo, talking about his history coming from Guatemala, building his third company, coming to Carnegie Mellon and talking. So we're giving students and teachers access to people who are actually building tomorrow, both right here in Pittsburgh and around the world. So I want to thank everyone, each and every one of you. James Harris from the Woodland Hills School District, thank you so much. Sue Moyer from Duquesne School District. You can hear each and every one of them are taking their own approach with it really hands-on. I don't know how you do the work that you do. Same thing to our friend Todd, Dr. Keruskin from the Elizabeth Forward School District, who was always such a good student and provided lots of information inside the chat. And Dr. Anthony Hamlet, thank you again for the work that you've done over time and taking on the issues that have faced the Pittsburgh School District. And I know it's been a lot, and I know that you and your team have been working feverishly around the clock. Also, thank you, Janet, Superintendent Sardon from Yough, to make sure that we understand that there's rural areas that are deeply impacted and don't have access, and that you've been working ferociously to make sure that people and their families have the tools that they need. And in Wilkinsburg, which is adjacent to Pittsburgh, and it's a very diverse community, Dr. Iverson, you've been leading a lot of work, and really there was a shout out to you in the chat for the work that you did to make sure that technology was in everyone's hands. These are complex times. An hour of conversation with all of you doesn't do it justice. I know that your time is precious, but really you spending the time with us actually matters, because schools make Pittsburgh. Schools make this region. Having great schools and having great education are what attracts businesses and companies and people to plant their flag here for the future. And we're all competing for the same kinds of talent, and they are our future. It's not necessarily people who come from outside the region who are going to solve the problems for tomorrow. They're right here in our backyard. And if we're not giving them the support they need through our business relationships, we're not doing our work. So I hope that each and every one of you find time to take care of yourselves. I know that's got to be hard with a year in this pandemic, and hopefully soon you'll have a vaccine and you'll be able to move about a little bit more freely. But I can tell you, we're not going backwards. We're not going back. We've seen the changes and we're not going back. So I'm going to wrap up the show saying I am just so in awe and appreciative of each and every one of you. We will stay connected. We are not strangers. Your work matters to us. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And for those of you who never have joined Business as Usual, get on our mailing list, because we are having serious conversations about all things that affect us and each and every one of us, whether it's kids, whether it's business, whether it's food, whether it's public policy. We are talking about those things and trying to figure out stronger solutions. So I want to thank all of you. We're going to sign off for now. Stay safe. And it wasn't even a school day. So I mean, a snow day. There's no more snow days, right? That's a thing of the past, right?
That's right.
No more snow days.
Yes.
No more snow days. Thank you. Thank
Right.
you, everyone.
Thank you.